Janet Raftis, energy healer and intuitive development coach. And today I'm going to be talking about the energy of spaces and how to keep your space feeling really, really good for you. This is really important for people who are highly sensitive. I have learned over the years that there are a lot of things that appeal to my empathic sensitive nature, and also a lot of things that are important in my highly sensitive nature when it comes to the energy of my home. One of the things that prompted me to do this today, there's a lot of things that have been coming up. A lot of people, actually some people have reached out to me about feeling like there was some darker stuff around them. And then I had an experience today where I was in a public place and they had like the Glade plugins in and I needed to ask them to take them out while I was there. And just thinking in general about kind of like the environment that we are in, right? And how we can curate that environment to be the best environment that it can be for us. So, you know, one of the things that happened when I started really tuning into my sensitive nature was that purely on a physical level was that I had to change over a lot of things in my house. I had to get rid of old cleaning products that I hadn't realized were making me sick and bring in natural, organic, or like, you know, plant-based cleaning materials. I had to get rid of certain things that I realized weren't feeling good in my home. Like I had things in my home that had been gifts to me from people who maybe weren't in my life anymore, or things that actually had like strong, like more painful emotions attached to them or memories attached to them that I don't know why I was hanging on to them. And so there were a lot of things that I did in the actual like the physical space, right? And within that was really a time when I went around my house and I went into the different rooms. And I probably did it during a move. I often like just do a full purge when I move, and just put a lot of stuff in, and give a lot of stuff to Goodwill. And, you know, really looking at the items that I had in my house and holding them and asking like, how does this feel to me? Does this thing bring me joy? Is it something that I want to look at every day? Because again, like what I realized was that I had a lot of stuff that I was seeing in my house that actually didn't feel good to me. And so really going through that process over and over again of like, how does this feel to me? How does this article of clothing feel to me? How does this knickknack feel to me? Why do I have this in my house? And so that was on a physical level, a pretty big purge. And I've done several of those, and every time it feels really good. And what I've really recognized over time is that the more I curate that experience, the better I feel in my environment. So that's one thing with the physical. Now with the energetic, that's a little bit of a different story. So the energetic really is connected to how you feel in your house, like what your actual state is when you're in the energy of your house. So this can be a lot of different things, but you probably even notice when you are in different areas of your house, or when you're in other people's houses or other public places, even outdoors, that you can feel really good in some areas and you can feel really drained and heavy in others. When I first started kind of really tuning into this, I was living in an apartment in a duplex with my son, and it was during the time that he really energetically opened up. And what I had to start really paying attention to what was happening. We had a ton of earthbound spirits in our house. I've talked about this before on my Facebook lives. And there was the energy of our next door neighbors, the people that we were sharing the house with, was really heavy and dense. And so as I started paying attention to that energy and clearing it and crossing over the departed, earthbound spirits, I started noticing where the pockets of energy were heavier. The area where I did my healing work was super bright and super clean and super cleansed, but there were other areas in the house that felt like heavy pockets. And so I started paying attention to those areas. And these were some things that maybe weren't handled necessarily by sage or Palo Santo, which are beautiful tools for cleaning most energy. But it was like a heavier energy that kept coming back. So even if I saged, the heaviness would come back. What I really started to work with, and this came after we moved from that house into our next house, where I had to do, Jake was still opening up and stuff was still like coming in, pouring in, and I was like, okay, wait, there's something more going on here. And I really started thinking about the energy of the house and the energy of the yard and what was going on and what was happening. That was the time that I really started working with light and visualizations, and even more strongly with the angels, with my space. And so what, one of the things that I did, and I still use sage, I still use Palo Santo when I feel called to one of those, but even more than that, I use a lot of visualization and a lot of light. And this is really deceptively simple. I mean, you could be thinking like, really, you just use golden light and it's fine. But really, I use golden light and it's fine. And what I have learned to do, one of the things that I think a lot of sensitive people get a little caught up in, something that I've noticed, and something that was certainly a part of my story, and that is that we feel oftentimes prone to the negative energy around us, right? Like, oh, like that person's so draining, there's such negative energy, and oh, I hate going to that house, there's such negative energy, and oh, I don't like being in my house. Like, these are all things that I have definitely felt. I felt like the external was negatively impacting me, and what I really have learned is that the more I take responsibility for my body, my energy field, my space, like that stuff isn't even a factor anymore. And that's because I don't allow it to be a factor. Like, I was hosting a workshop over the weekend, and I was like telling these guys, it was so awesome. I was like, I'm an energetic badass. Like, when it comes to like clearing space, I'm like a superhero in my own mind, right? Like, I have fun with this. It's like, hey, Lauren, I really like have a good time. I mean, even in like hairy moments, if I'm clearing a house and there's something that's pretty dark and gnarly there, like, I know it can't affect me. I know it. Like, I know it in my soul. And this is in my entire being. And so this is something that really allows me to have sovereignship over my body, my energy field, and my space. So that was like a huge perception shift. And I think it's the most empowering perception shift I ever could have had. So what I started doing was like really working with my energy field, getting it to where it was just as strong as it could be, and just having that knowingness that nothing could F with me. Nothing. No matter, no way, no how, no one. Like, it was like, you stay back, you stay back, you stay back. There is like no penetrating this, right? And I actually did a Facebook Live on that a while ago. It was one of my first ones, and it's called Why Protection May Not Be Protective. And it's really because when we feel like we need to protect ourselves all the time with bubbles and, and shields and guards and armor and all this stuff, like, that is so disempowering. We feel like we can't control it. So really stepping into, like, because you have absolute power in these situations. It is your energy field. It's your energy field, and it is your body. So in the energetic realm, you have absolute sovereignship, okay? And that goes for your house too, and your space. So you get to declare what is your space. Even if you're in an office cubicle, you can declare what your space is, and you can make that your space, and you can energize that space, and you can make it whatever you want it to be. And I would love for you to do this and see what happens. Just see what happens. See what happens when people walk into your space. See who stops walking in your space. But to go back to how to do that and using the light, so one of the tools that you can use is like a golden light. I use a golden light. You can actually use whatever light you feel intuitively drawn to. I love the golden light because it's a golden light of divine love and grace, and it's super powerful. At least it is for me, and I love it, and I have absolute faith in it. So whatever you do, have absolute faith in it, and that's what will work for you. But I use the light for everything. I use the light in my house. I use the light in my doors. Like, I have like golden waterfalls of light in my doors, and I just know that no matter what comes through the door, it gets cleansed as it comes in. It's automatically set up. I have that in my home. I have it in my office. I also put light all around the house. I put angels in the corner of the house, and not like as guards per se, but as like loving beings who are allowing in only high vibrational light into my space. And Scott says it's flooding in here. It is flooding in here. And it feels really, really good. And it feels really good in my office for the same reason, and including the fact that Becky, the woman I share the office with, and I put a lot of healing love into the space. But with that in mind too, like anytime you fill a space with heart-centered energy, your heart-centered energy, the heart-centered energy of the divine, of the angels, of the ascended masters, whoever you love to work with, that energy upholds the absolute purity and grace of the space. So I encourage you to really try working with this and to have fun with it, because this is a really amazing tool that is also you get to be a badass. So use your intuition with it. If you have something in your house, if you notice, it's a good practice to just go from room to room and kind of tune in and see well, what do I feel here? And notice, so there's a little heaviness here. Well, what happens if I blast it with golden light? What happens if I throw fireballs into it? What happens, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to play with, do that and notice how it feels. And the reason that I do this is because I started playing with it. I mean, I tuned in, I got messages from my team to do this, and I was like, okay, I'll just do it and just see, right? And my space felt better, right? And I noticed it, and my son noticed it, and people who came over to my house noticed it. And then I started using it in house clearings, and the people whose spaces I was clearing, they noticed it too. One of the things that brought this up today as well was that Scott had posted in a group about how Scott's 6'2" or 6'3", and I'm 5'2", and I like to say 5'3", but probably more 5'2", and I'm teeny and he's big, and we do house clearings together, and he noticed that he's I'm all about it. I can go in when I'm with Janet, but if I'm on my own, I feel a little more cautious, a little more filled with trepidation, and it's funny, right? But the thing is that through this practice of mine, I have really, really gotten to that place of just absolute clarity that nothing can mess with me. Nothing can mess with me in the energetic realm. I hold absolute power in my experience in that way. So that is the greatest tool for yourself, for your space, and I wanted to share it today. And if any of you have done anything like this, I would love for you to share about it in the comments, or if you have a question, feel free to ask. And if you do it, I would love for you to come back or to let me know in whatever way is best for you, how it worked for you, and if you enjoyed it and what your experience was. Thank you, Melissa. I love to think so. It's the one place in the world that I totally get to be that badass Wonder Woman. It's where I live out my superhero fantasies, but it really works. All right, so anyone have a question? If not, I will sign off for this week. And I am super grateful for all of you for being here and for tuning in, and I love you, and I will, let me just share, I'm sorry, that I do have, if you like to have a practice where you can keep your energy field nice and clear and reset, I do a group remote healing every Sunday night. And it is a great way to just clear out your energy, balance, reset, recharge, and all of that good stuff. There's information about that on my website, janetraptis.com. And Monique says, when we start energizing our space, should we do it more at first, or is it one time enough, or just go with how we feel? Totally just go with how you feel. That is the absolute truth in it. Removing items in your house, does that assist with resetting the space? Elena asks, absolutely. So move stuff around. You're welcome, Ina. Thank you. Move stuff around and see if it feels, even if you don't practice feng shui, you can move things around in your house and just see how the energy shifts when you do that. And if you work with altars and sacred space, create some sacred space in your room. I've done a Facebook Live on that as well. And putting an altar somewhere will really shift the energy of the room too. Yes, definitely rearranging, Elena. Just move the furniture around, move the knickknacks around, and see what happens. Oh, and I wanted to say one more thing about Monique's question, and that is that you will, the more you do it, the better at it you'll get, so to speak. Like, you'll notice maybe that you didn't think of something, or there was something that you didn't feel at first. So do it once, and then it's a great thing to just kind of tune in maybe a day or two later and notice if, did I miss something, or does it need a little recharge or whatnot, and just check in regularly. Yeah, thank you, Lauren. Thank you to all of you. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.